Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I'm always watching for anything new coming out on Radionics, and this is a very interesting book that has recently come out basically this month or so. And this is a series of books that have been published by this mythical Dr. Melissa Stotler, which I find very interesting. But what I really find interesting about this is my first AI book, which is obviously AI created. She's created, or whomever did this, because this is not a real name as far as we know. To see what AI actually produces. Now, when you get into technical areas like this, AI is pretty much worthless, and AI is very overrated to begin with. There's a lot of interesting things AI can do, which is kind of fun and interesting, especially when you experience it the first few times. When you start seeing what they put together in the kind of base level of information you get from AI, which is just really regurgitating information that's out there on the web. It searches it apparently speedfully, if that's a word, and then puts it together in a very gross, low-level fashion. And of course, you're not going to get anything in there of new because AI is not intelligent. It's just compiling data and making it look like a book. And of course, or anything else that you're getting. So sometimes they're better than others depending on the AI. But AI is a primitive technology and again, very overrated. And we're looking into many different AI programs, and they tend to be very limited of what AI programs are doing right now. So, and they're not really that easy to find at this moment. You certainly can have them make up snippets of videos. I had a little service that did that, and it's quite interesting. If you want, 20, 30 seconds of information to put out there for the basically the dung heads, the rock heads that don't have an attention span past 20 or 30 seconds. Real information and dealing with subject matters takes time, and while long lectures may not be of interest to most people, that's when you can really go into a lot of information, repeat important things, and get your point across. And if you're not interested in the subject matter where you want to spend at least 30 minutes involved in it, then you really shouldn't investigate it. You can't learn stuff in snippets and think that you're an expert or gain something from it in general. But of course, I like to break things down, and my new books that will be coming out will be more like booklets, 40 to 50, 40 to 60 pages, which is something everybody can digest, particularly when you're reading. Looking at a 200 or 300 page book is intimidating. And are you ever going to go back and read it? Well, even myself as a researcher, I haven't spent very much time rereading books. And if you want to find something in that book that may have been interest, you either have to mark up the book with lots of highlighters and even put some sort of bookmark in there to find that again. Because if you've got to go back in that book and look for it, it's going to be difficult. So I rarely go back and look in any books unless they are basically some sort of encyclopedic or listing of things which can be helpful to go back. And I have a few of these kind of books that I use, but not many. So you're not going to go back and reread anything. We got to be real here. Secondly, why should I reread something? I've read it already. You should cover something else out there, since a lot of subject matters have endless books. Read a new book. Why go over the old stuff? There's little value of that. So, I mean, that's the proper way to study, learn, and do research, as I'm always trying to inform people on. The other issue, of course, with this book, and as I said, it's interesting, but you can see how this is a typical AI, and the way you can tell AI is very interesting. First of all, the type on this was made larger in the actual book here. I'm assuming that was done either by mistake or deliberately to increase the page count. Now, this only has 87 pages, and you can see that there's quite spacing and everything else here. And I like that anyway, because I don't like to squint at things. But a real telling about an AI book is the table of contents. You can see how this is how the AI is figuring out what to write. And it's done in a different type, small type, and it's categorizing everything. And this is what AI does, and it covers different areas of what somehow has been putting in here. But what's amazing about this book, and what's amazing about most AI that I've had any kind of contact with, I get a little better view there, is that it's fascinatingly interesting and boring at the same time. I mean, you're not getting anything new. This even covers how to handle machines, but, it doesn't talk about any machines. There's no specifics in here, and that's very AI. AI is not going to cleaning your machine. If it doesn't work, check the electrical cord. All this kind of stuff that's in here, kind of written for a practitioner. I don't know how this is a beginner's guide, because it certainly is nothing beginning in here. It does give you some basic information, the usual stuff on an overview of radionics and everything else, which is all pretty silly. In general, it talks about some researchers, and it talks about a roof drown. I'm not sure who this Dr. Edward Sherrill is. Can't seem to find him anywhere. I have a feeling that the person who makes this is probably British or Canadian, who put this together and made these AI books. By some of the references in here of information, but it's so sterile, it's so general, and you're always reading the next line to say, well, yeah, I mean, that's standard stuff, but where is the good stuff? And the good stuff is never there. All the covers look the same. It's got the same thing there. Very sterilely done. And this is the problem with AI. It is sterile. It's not going to give you any information. An AI expert is not an expert in any kind of field whatsoever. It's going to regurgitate very typical data. Now, when you get a book written by myself or my authors and so forth, they are experienced in that field. So you get insights you're not going to find in other written areas, because after all, it's just being written in the book that you're looking at. So how would anybody else know that? If you're repeating a bunch of junk that everybody else has, which I tend not to do, and particularly anymore, well, why repeat things? If people want to know the basics of certain things, what radionics are and everything else, and it's going to be the same old story, well, let them find that somewhere else. Give them the information that is new and exciting and unknown. Now, AI cannot find anything that is unknown. It will not make any kind of judgments or add facts in, because it doesn't have the facts. So let's remember that, and all this robot stuff and everything else. And by the way, AI has been around probably for 15 years at least, where people have been using what are called algorithms to basically is AI who's searching out things that are different or fit in, and then kicking them out, as done with YouTube. PayPal does this. If they're watching your account through AI, and if something odd happens, meaning you have a whole bunch of money come in, or a bunch of sales all of a sudden, that's suspicious, so they close your account. AI is also used for years at YouTube to look at videos and find out if there's anything objectionable there. They also have a team of regular people there, so I have read, several thousand, that look at videos for their quality and content. So I'm not sure what AI can do in period, but here we go again. Everything's overrated. Now, as AI develops, it may or may not be able to make judgments. People talk about the medical field. Well, if you punch in a lot of symptoms into AI, it's going to go through its bank of information and kick out what it feels is the best diagnosis. Now, that is something, well, considering how bad doctors are and how they refuse to spend any time with you, it's only your health and your life. What do they care? Where's my Mercedes? I need new tires. Where's that $100,000 lunch? This is what they're really doing. So they don't really give a damn about you whatsoever, almost any. But the whole idea, as a doctor, you're supposed to look at the person, check things. What does their skin look like? What are their vitals, etc. Now, of course, this could be punched into a AI machine or a machine that will reference all this and make a diagnosis, depending how well that is done. Considering what your doctor does, I think most people could put a finger in some sort of sensor and then punch in their symptoms, and you would be getting a better diagnosis than those doctors who are really incompetent and dangerous. But you're not going to get anything new from AI when you create books this way. And this shows you the hollowness, the vacuousness of using AI to write about subject matters. And what kind of in-depth information do they give you? I'm going to be looking at other books in this line. Now, by the way, they're all on Kindles. I always forget the name of their program they have that you join for $12 a month. So you can read all these books for a very low cost on Kindle, because I would never buy. I bought this physical copy. I'm not sure why. I should have got the Kindle version, but you can get this on their program with Kindle, where you can read as much as you want and get a feel if there's anything to this. The problem with AI is that, as I said, it's vacuous. There's nothing there. And if it becomes a subject matter that's difficult to talk about, which a lot of health-based books are, you're going to have a serious problem. If it's history, well, is there anything new on history? Well, there is. But the bottom line is that if you want to find out of what happened with the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor, AI can probably do a fairly good job on that, because there's endless informations out there on that are fact-based. So you can put something together. But you're not going to get quality information from anything that AI produces, no matter what it is, whether it's videos or anything else they do. Now, there may be ways of helping you. We're going to have to see what AI comes out with. Can they fix photographs for you? Which does instantaneous? I'm assuming they can make logos or other things. Are these going to be better than artists? Well, I doubt it. But you need something better if it's going to cost you more. It depends on the product. When it comes down to how-to information, you need something better. How better a logo is, or a picture is, or so many other things, if it was done by a skilled human, is there such a thing? Well, I think there is going to be debatable, but depending on the product itself. But as I've mentioned, people, this is really a vacuous book. It leaves more questions unanswered than answered. It goes into a lot of details that don't seem to be any importance for radionics for health. It's about a person running a practice, doing other things. They're talking about legalities that aren't correct. All the things they talk about, and the way that it is phrased is quite disturbing, because the fact that radionics as a medical practice is generally illegal all over the world, and there's a gray area where you can do some of the work in the UK. Other places, it's illegal. It's practicing medicine without a license. They don't really talk about this, and so they're actually giving you bad information here. I'm not sure where all that came from. If this is not an AI book, which I frankly doubt, there is so much misinformation in here that it's frightening if this person thinks that. So what you've really got to do is understand that. So if, as AI becomes more and more and people want to seek to make money, this person has put out at least 10 different books with this AI format to make money on it. And of course, if you put out enough books like this and people buy them, it can create an interesting income, especially in areas that are unique. And of course, they're offering it very cheap to almost free if you get in the Kindle program. So all of that is very important for you to understand. But the bottom line is that books aren't written on certain topics in particular, and radionics is one of them, by a practitioner that has researched and done the work. They tend to be very flawed and very bad. But of course, radionics in itself, there's several books written by a boob out there, which are all bad books, and his associates as well. Guys who make illegal claims and everything else. I mean, it's unbelievably amusing when you see what's out there. So, like with everything in the world, it's difficult. But, generally, at least you're going to get their incorrect information that they claim to have researched written by someone than having a computer produce something of such vacuous, low level, and kindergarten, and even misinformation that this book gives you. I hope you've enjoyed. Until next time.